Hey, welcome to the sit down. I'm your man, Rod Love, and sitting next to me is none other than Sister Wynn.
Hello, hello.
You
How
doing all
are
right
you?
this evening?
I am doing amazing. What about you?
I'm doing great. And of course, everybody knows the man in the hat, and that's Doc Polite. How you doing this evening, Doc?
I'm good. I'm good. I am good.
Hey, but I tell you what, hey man, do y'all realize we are about a week away from Christmas?
I know, I know.
The year from a new year.
That
You're
too.
right.
That
You're
too,
right.
Doc.
I mean, think about how fast this year has gone.
It really
Well, you
is.
know what? What I'm gonna think about, Doc, is this. I'm gonna think about how blessed this year has been.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, it has.
You
It
know,
has.
Doc, and Sister Wynn, you know, when people talk about how blessed a year has gone,
Hmm.
when they say that, sometimes people don't say it and include some things that weren't as comfortable.
Yes.
You know, when we talk about how blessed the year has been, that don't mean that everything has been smooth.
No, no. I am blessed to be alive to be able to see, hopefully, 2025.
Hey, we're gonna say grace over it.
2025.
Hey,
There you go.
2025.
2025.
2025. Think about that.
I know.
Well,
Wow.
Doc, when you say
I
think
got
about
some
it,
value. Hey, I got some values I want to share with y'all. Can I share some of them?
go
This
ahead.
year, since we talked about end of the year and people love to give their end of their New Year resolutions and all that, I'm gonna give you some rules to live by. These are 10 values that I embody. Number one,
Okay.
do not date when you're broke, in terrible shape, miserable, or your life is chaotic. Get your life in order first.
Okay.
Number two, you should either have a supportive partner or no partner. There's no third option.
No third options.
Okay.
No third option. The best revenge is getting yourself in a place where you no longer care about it.
Okay.
Okay.
If someone can't acknowledge their flaws, they lack self-awareness and pose a danger to you. Just because a relationship has lasted a long time doesn't mean it's successful. Self-respect is derived from self-control, not from pleasing others or seeking external validation. Don't waste your time and energy on social media, overthinking, and meaningless relationships. We talk about that all the time, Rod.
We
How
do.
I-
We do. By
iron
the way, what
sharpens
number are
iron.
you on now, Doc?
That's number 7. Number 8,
Okay.
if you always believe your happiness is somewhere else, you'll never find it where you are. Number 9, life does not wait for you to be okay. Get up every day and push through. Number 10, free yourself from society's advice. Most people don't know what they're doing. Ain't that the truth?
You're right about
Hey, that's some real truth right there.
yeah, you're right. Hey,
And
but that was
I posted that on my Facebook page, so you can find it right there if y'all want to go there, copy it, and whatever, share it. That's some words of wisdom to live by.
well.
Because again, we're at that milestone where people are looking back. See, we said like, wow, a year is gone,
Mhm.
and it's not a given that we got next year, all of next year.
Correct.
You're right.
Correct.
So with that, Sister Wynn, what's some things that you're gonna live by going into 2025?
Ooh, ooh, ooh. Mm. I am going to be living by grace, the will of God, to keep me in the new year, to
Okay.
keep me every day. When I plant my feet on the floor first thing in the morning, thank you, Jesus, for another day.
All right. Okay. Well, I'm gonna sum it up, and I know Doc had his 10. You had a few. I'm gonna just say this real boldly and bluntly. I don't wait till the new year comes around to be who I am.
Mm. Mm.
I'm gonna live this life every day. I don't, and you know, it took me a while to get to this point, but I don't wait to make New Year resolutions because
Yeah.
as life goes on, it could be May, it could be June, it could be July. I'm gonna continue to live my best life, and I'm not gonna wait till Christmas or New Year. And there's nothing wrong with anybody waiting to do that, because sometimes, like Dr. Nelson tells us, you have to set those benchmarks.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
but that's just me. But
Okay.
having said all of that, I want to welcome everybody once again to the sit down. We have Doc Polite and we got Sister Wynn here. And the sit down is all about you. The sit down is about what you're doing out in communities and what communities have to offer uh, young people. And I'm not going to say old people. I'm going to say wise
Yeah,
people.
wise people. Yeah.
So with that being said, I'm going to defer to Doc Polite because we have a special guest with us. And this special guest, Doc, has told me great things about this person. I know I've interacted with this person once or twice.
Okay.
She has a heck of a track record. She's very smart, innovative, and this is one of the trailblazers. So
Okay.
without any further ado, Doc, I'm going to pass the baton.
Okay, this young lady that I'm going to bring on is a long time friend. And I can tell you this, there are a lot of people that talk about helping the youth, young people, and getting them to the to the next level. She's got kids that were in her program that made it to the NBA, made it to the NFL, major colleges, and all of this stuff, all under her tutelage and leadership. She has taken inner city kids from every neighborhood in Central Florida and helped them to get somewhere beyond the statistics. See, it's easier for us to look around and find the statistics, but it's very few people that can say the statistic will come back and thank them. That child will come back and say, I would not be here if not for. And know specifically that this person impacted and changed their life. So without further ado, I want to introduce my friend Tony Washington. And she is known, AKA, as the Inner City Guru. Good evening, Miss Washington. How you doing?
Hi. How's everybody?
We doing great. We doing great. And welcome to the sit down.
Thank you. Good seeing you again. Hi, Sister Wynn. And hey, my friend.
How are you?
I'm great. I'm great.
So Tony, I tell us a little bit about yourself here in Central Florida. Tell us where you from. Start there.
Born and raised Central Florida. Parents, Jones High alumni, my whole family probably. I graduated. I actually lived my high school years, my middle school and high school years in Sanford. So I grew up in Sanford, middle school, high school, went to Seminole High School, Sanford Middle School, go SHS.
Okay.
Yes, 1984, the best.
Hey,
best
hey,
class.
Miss Washington, I like that title that Doc put, the guru.
Yes.
I was given that name by my colleagues across Florida. Florida came up with that. The Inner City Guru. They said they had, and the National League of Cities actually, from DC, they had never seen anybody go into a neighborhood, which is, it's very flattering. But if God gives it to you, you have to go and do what He says. Because once I thought I played the part of Jonah. I felt like Jonah. He would send me over to do this, and I'd end up doing something else. And next thing you know, I'm right back. I tell Dr. Polite, and you reference him, Doc, I don't want to do that anymore. I'm not doing that anymore. I quit. Next thing you know, somebody calling me, and I'm right back where he told me to be in the first place.
Wow.
Well, Miss Tony, let me ask you this question. Working in communities is something that when I look at it, a person has to be recognized as being authentic.
Yes.
And so you have that history, and correct me if I'm missaying this, but and Doc, was it the Paramore Kids Zone originally?
Yes. She could tell you the story.
Yeah, so I want to hear this story.
What part?
But see, reason why I want to hear this is because there's a lot of paramours all around the country.
Yes.
Right.
And Doc has talked about what you were able to do, and I don't want to go back and date you, but you started this decades ago, I'm here.
Yes, Paramore. Actually, we just did. They called us back to do the survey, for the project. But I was the first one to bring programming, the outreach, You know, Paramore was an area and a neighborhood once rich, and it's really rich in history. And then of course, you know, they start building and things happen. Um, so there was a lot of mistrust, a lot of lack of hope, broken promises. And so, in order to build those things up, you have to find, you use the right word, authentic. The kids call it green. I think they still say green. If any of them watch me now, they gonna straighten me. They gonna straighten me tomorrow and say, you used the wrong word, Miss Tony. But they call it green because, you know, even though kids are resilient and neighborhoods are resilient, they see you coming. They know
Yeah.
when you with them and when you're not. You know, you can't dump a person carrying a briefcase with a suit and tie in a neighborhood like Paramore. You just couldn't
Right.
do it. So we
Right.
got out there and I created my little team of 7. It was 6 of us, excuse me, 6 people. And next thing you know, we were programming between 250 to 500 kids a day.
Wow.
Wow.
um Parents would call us and basically say, do you have my child birth certificate? Did you go get Kiara out of school today? I did. I had it. We had it so where we didn't even need it when they saw us coming. Who you need today, Miss Tony? I mean, and that's a blessing in itself to be able to um be trustworthy enough like that
Yeah.
that
And that's the key word, trust.
right. The neighborhood, the parents, the community leaders all believed in you. And you know, some of us sit in our offices and sit back and let the others do the work, but we're not going to talk about that. This is not the show for that.
I think that also, Mr. Love, it goes to consistency, being
Mhm.
consistent with it, coming
Mm-hmm.
out to the students and the community all the time,
And
being a
that
face. No.
and that's key of what you're talking about when you talk about consistency.
Yeah, and
If,
I
if peop-
and I know I'm sorry. Go ahead.
well, if people are responding to what they believe to be you being authentic, and they see you on Tuesday, and then they show up the following Tuesday, and you're not there,
Yeah.
Right.
what does that do
Right.
to them, Miss Tony?
It does. It breaks down what we all know as morale.
Mhm.
We often use the word morale only for workplace, but morale is for, you know, marriages, morale is for
Yeah.
neighborhoods, communities. It breaks the morale, and then once again you have those broken promises. I know when we brought in Michael Bazin, when he was on his 1 million mentors campaign, and when I spoke, I said, if you're a real mentor, your doors are never open. I mean, no, your doors are never closed. It's a 25-hour, 8-day-a-week job.
Yeah.
I remember one time I had a set of kids. I left the office that particular day early, and I said we had a beef. Central was the dividing line. So the kids south of Central and the kids north of Central wouldn't cross the line in fear of getting beat up. I was told this was a year long,
This was no. This was generational. That beef is generational because
generational line in the neighborhood. And they actually, when I found this out, talking to my parents, talking to Dr. Polite, I said, we gonna erase that line. Some of the city leaders actually had a bet that I could not do it. And right
Wow.
now to this day, I brought everybody in. I cut out the black t-shirt wearing. You're all wearing black. I mean, what
Yeah.
you don't even have sense enough to have different colors. You know, you don't own nothing. And you know, one other thing about being in communities, you you must. This is a must. Keep it real at all times. If you haven't seen a parent, sometimes you got to say something to that kid to make that parent come to you because
Yeah.
mama coming, daddy coming in some instances. I was chased by a machete one time because the little girl she wouldn't get in the car for volleyball for volleyball practice. And I said, well, her name on this list, either you getting in the van or she getting in the van. Cause I got out of my bed just like I knocked on your door and got you out of bed. Long story short, she got in there. But back to the story. So what I did is I brought them all together. We had a big meeting. Lots of my male volunteers were there just in case we had a real Charlie Brown brawl. And I basically told them, you guys are crazy. One side of the neighborhood has the pool, and the other side of the neighborhood has the inside basketball court. What the HE hockey sticks are y'all doing?
Yeah.
And we went into some other things. We started having some lock-ins, neighborhood lock-ins, uh, with assistance with OPD if they saw a kid walking around during this time, just being idled on the streets. The girls were at the Jackson Center, the young men were at the downtown reg. So simple things like that. But I created something called Instill, and you have to deliver honest programming. You have to create opportunities to engage. You have to manage purpose driven outcomes, and you have to provide empowerment to create a better tomorrow. And what those letters are is you're just simply instilling hope. That's it.
Mm,
That's all you're
mm.
doing. You're instilling hope where there's loss. We go home and we might have dinner already prepared. A lot of these kids in 2024 are still going home with nothing to eat.
And Ms. Washington, to that note, if you would speak to a lot of those adversities that you had to address when you talk about kids going home and going home to nothing to eat. That is an issue. When you're talking about battling drugs in the community, when you talk about violence in communities, those are things that you actually had to combat to get the attention of those kids to tell them, hey, no, make better decisions. Make better decisions when it comes to making friends. But there's one other thing that's in the air that we have not talked about, and it's something that I'm seeing more and more of is, yeah, we're out trying to work with communities, work with parents, working with all of these issues out there, but there's a hidden issue that's right in front of us. We see it, but we don't see it, but it's still an issue nonetheless that's an impediment to progress, and that issue has been, unfortunately, bureaucracy in government. And so, Doc, I see that.
Trust me, she's ran into the same thing that we were talking about. There has been things that she and I wanted to do, and I mean, walls were thrown up, and no was given because of who wanted to do this. And it's not about who wants to do it; it's what's the impact to the community.
Mhm.
And it's certainly something that Ms. Tony can speak on.
You know what I used to tell the city leaders and the bureaucracy? I don't do the red tape thing. You bring me in. I want maybe one or two individuals to answer to. That's one of the main problems. You have too many chiefs and not enough Indians. Everybody
You're
can't
right.
be over the money. Everybody can't make all the decisions. Everybody has to know their place and stay in their lane. Those are two main things.
Mhm.
And it's just so much, boy.
Yeah.
I love this topic. I absolutely love it. So everybody has to stay in their lane. You got to keep it real. And I didn't do red tape. So what I would do is you asked me to do a job, and that's what we're gonna do. Now when it starts going downhill, then you say something. But
Right.
until you continue to see those newspaper articles, referencing the individual that brought up the programming and not the individual doing the programming, um then you start speaking about it. But other than that, you basically you keep your mouth closed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just very real and direct when it comes to my kids. These children are battling some real grown up issues that they should not even be dealing with at some of the ages that they are. And so one of my main things that I did was I got probably 10 of the worst kids in the neighborhood to run the whole regime. I
To
ain't
run the
doing
what?
nothing to run the whole show.
Okay.
Look, I just saw you hand the man X, Y, and Z. If you don't get in this car and play on this basketball team, you know where you're going. It's a little light threats and stuff,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I ain't going with you. I'm a goon. I'm always be a goon, Okay, goon. I got you. Get in the car. I'll see you at 6 o'clock down here at this basketball thing. And everybody doesn't have what's called passion. That is a that's God given. And I thank God every day for it. I didn't embrace it for a long time.
And she's being modest because I've seen her change the entire family. That's when you have real impact. When you transform the child so much, the parents have to come and meet you and see who you are and what you bring in, and then they in turn are interested now in becoming a part of what you're doing. That's generational transformation. And she had, for I know Purple, she had like how many? You had several women that
I had
came.
75. I had 75 girls. Probably weekly. I had about 50, 52 girls every week. And I actually went on to write a curriculum for my program, Purple. It's an acronym for Powerful Urban, Really Passionate Ladies Excelling. Because when I left for 2 years. I wanted to go and do other things. I like to develop and strategically plan the programs. I don't necessarily like the programming part, but I love all of it. And so I went a different direction. And within those 2 years, I went back and I said, I wonder what everybody's doing. And 15 of my young women had children under 2. I said, wow, it was working. So I wrote a curriculum, which now I'm back at Grand Avenue Elementary School programming Purple. Didn't I just tell you about Jonah?
That's it. You're right. You're right.
I keep running and I'm right back.
You're
and now
running
my
back.
parents
But you
are
know,
like,
but something else that you said when you talk about passion, and you're absolutely correct. I think that if you don't have the passion to go in communities and do the things that we see that, as Doc mentioned, are transformational, I see a lot of people led by their passion, but they're driven by their purpose. And that is what gets results. When you sit back and see these young people, and when they were kids, and now you see them as adults, and they're still saying, Miss Washington. See,
Yes.
it's something.
Yes.
It's something
Yes.
psychological, something developmental. When these kids grow up and they recognize you as Mr. This or Miss That.
Yes.
When they become adults,
yes,
it's ingrained within them about the respect, and you've taught them something
Yes.
that they're teaching their kids.
yes. I am actually in one of my all boy chats. They wanted Miss they wanted Miss Tony to be in the all dude chat. But believe me, I keep my mic muted more often than so because some of that stuff Miss Tony don't want to hear. But I smile because they wanted me to be a part of their lives and the things that they have going on with the young women and being fathers now, and you know it's just a wonderful feeling, and I don't take it lightly. I thank God every day that He has given me these opportunities. But I will share one thing with you. People can't do this. So I had a young lady come to me, and I tell you, every 2 days or every 3 days, she asked me for dishwashing liquid. And I'm like, dishwashing liquid? Okay, go get the dishwashing liquid. I mean, it was ongoing. So I was like, why does she need so much dishwashing liquid? What is she doing? And so she came in and I was outside of myself. So I said, why do you need so much dishwashing liquid? You can't possibly be washing that much dishes, that many dishes. And so I realized I had said the wrong thing. So she left out and I got out of my office. Remember, we talked about that office chair.
Yeah.
Got out of that office chair, which I always did, but that particular day I was still in there. And I went to the house as we did every day, all day, and I wanted to see what was going on. And what I realized is while they were washing dishes, they were equally washing their clothes.
Oh.
Oh, wow. Wow.
And so you take stories like that and you say, what can I do now to help this family? You don't
Yeah.
run back and tell, the bureaucracy or
Right. Right.
um city hall or the community center that gave you these monies or dollars. No, you figure out what you can do to help. That's where you said, Dr. Polite, the entire family. How do I
Yeah.
help them? And so I did. And right now, that particular family, they're still a part of me, really all of them. And if I call that mom right now, I don't care what I need. She is there for me.
Wow. Wow.
So
That's
that's just
longevity.
one story that will always stick with me. You don't just listen, you go see. And we walk that neighborhood. I walk all neighborhoods that I'm a part of. Paramore Kids Zone today is still a thriving community neighborhood for kids and families. But we did some really wild things back in the neighborhood just to get our engines and our motors running.
Miss Washington, didn't the Paramore Kids Zone give birth because it has since expanded to other communities, right?
Yeah, the Paramore Kids Zone was, and I can speak about it because I was from the ground floor. Um, I really, the blueprint for outreach was my baby. Um, I went back in my prayer closet and I drafted the blueprint for community outreach. Um, so what happened was, the Paramore Kids Zone were way back were the five bricks from Mayor Hood, where she said she wanted to do this, and this. Well, the Children's Initiative was the initial name. It was the Paramore Children's Initiative. And when I went back, and Paramore is a 1.5 square mile, it has a 1.5 square mile radius. And so for me in my brain, that's a zone. And so we got together and I came up with the name. We came up with the name, the Paramore Kids Zone Project, hence PKZ. And it's modeled by
The
Jeffrey
Harlem Kids
Canada,
Zone?
the Harlem Children's Zone. So we took a
Hmm.
trip up there to see the great, 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 great things that Jeffrey Canada had going on. And we marched in the parade, and it was just a wonderful, wonderful time. Got to sit with them and hear him speak and talk to us behind closed doors. And so I just came back and put my own twist. We had three parts to this. You probably are very familiar with these names. That was Lisa Early, who is the director of Family Parks and Recreations and the Paramore Kids Zone Project Children Initiatives. I don't know what their titles are now, but she was the brain. We called her the brain in the pockets. Brenda March,
Hmm.
who has since retired from the city. She was the heart because Brenda had been in that neighborhood. Brenda was in that neighborhood campaigning when I was a counselor for the city of Orlando Family Parks and Recreation.
And everybody knows and loves Brenda too.
Everybody knows Brenda, so she was the heart. And then I was considered the rest of the body.
Okay.
So you had the brain, Lisa, you had the heart, Brenda, and you had Miss Tony, the rest of the body. That's what made up the Paramore Kids Zone.
See, Doc. Normally, if it was only two, people would be like, "Okay, Batman, Robin." But since it was three, I don't know if I go to the Musketeers or what.
I like
Yeah,
that.
it was a
I
lot
like
of,
that.
it was a lot of, whew, it was a lot. I had them going. We
But,
gonna
but
put
you
it,
know
we
what?
gonna
I go
make this
way back
work.
with Brenda, and Brenda used to tell me how hard the grind was back then.
Oh boy,
But she said it was driven with passion.
that's what it was. It was driven with passion. I often say, and I'm writing a book now that I'm writing two books, but the first one it's Street Smarts Marketing from the Ground Up. I like the ground up approach. You cannot build a community. You cannot reinforce. You cannot instill hope from the top down because most of the bureaucracy in the government officials, and I love them all. And I'm not saying they're doing anything wrong, but when they get dollars, usually, they get a little too happy and they start implanting programs that they want.
Yeah.
They never go to the ground floor
Yep.
and ask,
Yep.
what do you want? Because you
Mhm.
live here.
Yep.
The first mentor, who is the first mentor in a neighborhood? I say this all the time, don't I, Dr. Polite? The first
Mhm.
mentor in the neighborhood, who is it? Ro- or Sister Wynn, do you know?
First
Either one of
mentor
you
in the
guys.
neighborhood.
First mentor in any neighborhood you go to.
Well, I would say, I mean, just from my perspective, it's the mothers out there. But go ahead, tell me.
It's the candy lady,
The candy
The
lady.
candy lady.
the flip
Didn't know
lady,
that.
the candy lady,
There
the
was a
lady
candy
selling
lady.
chips. Yeah, the
Cause
candy.
you go to the candy lady house, you
Yeah,
can't cut up.
you
Yeah.
can't cut up. She tell you to
No,
get
you
your
surely
behind on
can't.
that bus.
The candy lady or the frozen fruit cup lady.
Yeah.
That's right,
Yeah.
the flip lady. We call her
Flip lady or the
flip
candy
lady.
lady.
Yeah.
Before you get home, cause she looking, she watching you
Yeah.
now. She gonna
Yep.
tell your mama
Mhm.
before you get home. So if that's your first mentor, that's your first person, that's your pivotal point in that neighborhood.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Why doesn't she know what's going on? Why
Yeah.
haven't you asked her to come to a meeting and tell her stories?
Mhm.
Why haven't you asked old Joe the mechanic?
Yeah.
Mhm.
I had
Yeah.
old Joe the mechanic, my car that I created as a outreach vehicle. It was an old 1989 Plymouth Reliant, and my then ex he was my ex-husband. He's since passed on. Coach T is what Paramore knows him by. It had holes in the floorboard, and I wouldn't even drive my Lexus. I get in that car and ride. I fixed it up. Me and these same kids that nobody wanted to deal with. We couldn't create pimp my ride, so we created City Teens hooking it up, and we hooked this car up. I still have pictures of it. We blew the engine, but that's a long story. Um, and so the Magic asked me one day, "Can we ride around with you in your car and see what's going on?" And I said, "Sure." Got in the car. It was smoking a little bit, but it was pretty on the outside and
Oh,
the
pretty
inside.
on the outside, huh?
So we broke down on the corner of Beach and Bentley.
Oh.
If you know where Beach and Bentley,
Yeah, I
we
know. You
broke
know I
down.
know.
They in the car now. They looking around like, oh boy. But this is the day in the life of the inner city guru, Miss Tony. You say you want to ride, let's ride.
Let's ride.
And so here you go. Here comes old Joe the mechanic. See Mr. Joe home. Mr. Joe came over there and did his little tinkering and got us going. But I would think Mr. Joe would have put on some pants before he came. But those are the stories you tell. Those are the stories you tell.
Yeah,
the
that's cross town for you.
That's cross town, and that's what you got to deal with. But why aren't those individuals at the table?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
the
Well,
problem. Yes,
Miss Washington, do you go speak to some of the organizations that's out in the community now and tell their story?
I will. I haven't. I've done another turn.
You've done another turn, huh?
Uh-oh.
Listen,
Jonah. Go ahead, Dr. Pike.
I'm gonna tell you the truth because she ain't gonna put it out there. That saying, Rod, a prophet is without honor in their own hometown.
Oh yeah, I
Now
know it.
she is nationally recognized now as the inner city guru. So sometimes where you are is not as receptive to what you have. But it doesn't diminish them or her. It's just that it's not that season yet.
And Doc, you hit it right on the head. I mean, Doc knows those Bible verses, and Miss Wynn, I know y'all can preach to me, but not now. Hey, here's what in the last 10 minutes of this show, Miss Washington. Here's what I want to get from you.
Okay.
I want to get from you because there's thousands of paramours all over the country. How would you, or what would you say is the blueprint for? You're not going to fix everything, but for contributing to the betterment of all those different paramours that are out there. And you said one thing that I totally agree with you. In order to start the beginning of that process, you need to ask those people what's important to them. What do they want to see done in their community first? So if you would, share with us the building of a blueprint to help cure what ails communities.
To help what? What was that?
To help cure some of those problems that we see in communities.
Well, the first thing I would say is you have to start with a familiar face. For us, Brenda March was that familiar face.
Right.
I was also the familiar face because I worked in the community and lived in the community. I grew up, my mom let me drive to my Sanford every day in my senior year to go to school. I drove every day. But I'm still a familiar face there. You have to have that familiar face. And that familiar face and has to build those individuals with passion around them. And you got to keep it real. I spoke to 100 mayor around the world, around the nation, 100 mayor, and they asked me the same question. And I said over and over, and I will continue to say it because some of us have a real issue with this in leadership. We don't know how to keep it real. And that's the key. That's the key right there. You must keep it real at all times. Period.
Well, you hit it right on the head, and I mean, keeping it real, but also if one of the biggest things that you probably can tell by now, I know that we can make progress in communities. I know we have barriers out there that we need to address, but one of the biggest barriers that I'm seeing more times than not is the barriers of government getting in the way. And yeah, don't get me wrong, there's regulation that needs to take place. If you get funding from a governmental entity, just know that there's going to be some strings that come attached. Right. What I'm saying is, don't let those strings be a hindrance to creating better communities. And what I'm seeing, I'm not necessarily liking right now because that is happening, and that could actually be a bigger impediment than the issues we're trying to fight.
And the leader. Let's talk about the leader. Because in everything, like I said, the chief in Indians, there's always a leader. The leader has to equally know. It's just like a singer in the band. The leader is the head singer. At the end of that song, or at the end of the set, the end of the concert, what does that singer do? The singer introduces every single person in the band. So don't worry about whether you're going to get recognized or whether you're going to get recognition.
You're right.
I'm the one did this and that and the other. We're all in this together.
Right.
And that more so than often, and I'm going to say this, our African American communities have to understand what leadership is.
You're right.
We got to start there.
Yeah.
You might have to have a little schooling, but it's
one of the things I can say is, and we keep saying it time and time again, is that many of these people who are trying to create these programs, they don't understand the need for accountability, empirical data, and structure. And they get frustrated because they didn't do that part of the homework. They just got up one day and say, I'm going to help these kids. Well, there's a structure to helping those kids and getting the resources. Nobody's going to just come in your neighborhood and say, here's a $50,000 check, go make lives better. You have to prove that you have the competency and the skills. See, when you were getting all those grants, you knew that I can show my work. I had a math teacher say, oh, show your work. See, they don't want to do that. And I think that's one of the biggest blocks in our community, too. Too many of the people that want to do these programs don't want to show their work.
And Doc, you're absolutely correct, Doc. I think where that comes from is we've gotten accustomed to listening to people say, I've saved thousands of lives, but you don't have this to show anybody from a benchmark standpoint, from data, from measuring what it is that you've done.
Yep, you're talking out the side of your neck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically.
I always
What they
say it's
say?
like a football coach, you know, oh, I want to coach. I'm gonna give me a team. You can't coach, but you have the heart for the players.
You're right.
Mhm.
You're
Because
right.
I had to have my coaches take an exam, and I think the females in the office had a better grade than the coaches. I'm sorry, coaches. But I'm willing to go out and talk and speak and help anybody that's out there
Yeah.
trying to help these kids.
Yeah.
Gun violence is on my radar. And I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna throw a golden nugget for everybody that's out there trying to combat gun violence. And this is just the way I think. Don't kill me, Dr. Polite. You always telling me don't take it easy. But just think about it. We have all these kids that's out here doing this gun violence and this, that, and the other. But has anybody thought about taking those kids and starting a program with them tailored around guns? Hence, tell me where a paintball program is for all these gun lovers, these kids that like these guns, where you got a paintball where they go around the country and they compete. If you're so trigger happy, put them in something that where they can compete. It's just like my football team. Marvin Bracey, who went to the Olympics, he was my running back. Levante Whitfield, we know him as Kermit, that ran that 98-yard touchdown on Auburn to win the national championship for Florida State.
Mhm.
Um, we used to play city football, and I knew nothing against city football, but I knew, and my team knew, that with talent like this, you have to put them in a different environment. I
You're right.
can't,
Right.
I can't continue to let this kind of talent play with his cousin every week that he know he can outrun.
You're right. You're
So
right.
once we moved them up out of their environment, we took some flack.
Right.
Then they started becoming who God, that purpose, that destiny
Yeah.
started being
Yeah.
fulfilled. So in most cases, just look at the guru as a tool. You have to
Yeah.
think outside the box. And a lot of
Mhm.
us think with dollars. Data,
Mhm.
dollars come with data.
You're right.
You're right.
Dollars
Mhm.
come with measurements. Dollars come with
Mhm.
outcome. But
Yeah.
grants come with friendships.
There you
Mhm.
go. There you go. Hey,
Mhm.
Miss Washington, I got to tell you, it never fails. Soon as we get going into a
I
show,
know.
it winds out. But you know something? Let me say this very quickly. You mentioned gun violence. I love the way you put your special tweak on it from the standpoint of, yeah, we're gonna always be having conversation about gun laws and things of the nature. But let me say this: our heart goes out to Madison, Wisconsin, that had a shooting today at Abundant Life
Wow.
Christian School, where a
Oh,
teacher lost
no.
their life,
Mm.
another teenager was killed, and the alleged shooter took their own life, but several other people were injured in this as
Yeah,
well.
7
Our
others.
hearts, yeah, our hearts go out to their
Oh,
families.
no.
But I tell you what, Miss Washington, you are always welcome on the sit down. Doc Polite, I got to give it up to you tonight, brother.
Yes.
You outdid yourself with this guest.
Uh,
You outdid
well,
Like I
yourself.
you
said,
know,
I'm willing to talk to anybody, any programs that are startups. I'm now an alumni of Full Sail, so I'm really, really into rebranding, remarketing. Look out for my book, Street Smarts, Marketing from the Ground Up. So
Marketing from the ground up. We're going to take you up on that. Hey, Miss Washington, want to thank you once again for joining us on the sit down. Doc Polite, like I said, man, we appreciate it. Sister Wynn, once again,
thank you for having me.
another great episode. And hey, Miss Washington, you're always welcome back, because what we want to do is help contribute to building something
Yes.
in our communities. For
Yes.
those of you who are watching the sit down, we welcome you every Monday from 6 to 6:45. And again, hey y'all, Miss Washington said it best, and I want to quote her book. What is it? Street Smart, Building from the Ground Up.
Marketing from the Ground Up.
Marketing. Hey, see, I knew I was gonna. Hey, y'all heard it? Go buy the book. Where's the book available at?
It's not out yet. It's coming.
Okay, it's coming.
Okay.
Well,
Well,
make sure
let
we
us
know,
know.
Doc, so we can go ahead and advertise it.
Yeah.
But once
Will
again,
do. Will do.
you're always welcome. Hey, everybody, tune in to the sit down every Monday from 6 to 6:45. Miss Washington, We love the fact that you brought this to us. You'll always be welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
All right.